Now on Rockin' Minuch on Fox Sports 910 on FM at 99.
Why not? Tomato juice, Candyman, Scalaboo!
How about those Sun Devils? They were picked last in the preseason Big 12 Media Poll. And surprisingly, right now, they are the surprise of the conference with a 5-1 start, thanks to who you just heard, Cam Scadaboo, who could be the first ever Heisman Trophy recipient if this team continues. Rudy Carpenter joins us now on the Right to It guest line. What do you think about that, Cam Scadaboo? Do you like the sounds of it? A Heisman Trophy recipient? I think he's entered the conversation at least after that Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, he's having a great year, and depending on who you talk to, he absolutely could be, in the talk in the Heisman race right now. But I also think you got to put, Kenny Dillingham in there for a Coach of the Year candidate right now. I mean, he, in my opinion, has done a great job, coaching this football team to where they are right now.
I mean, you watch Scadaboo, Rudy. I know that guys want to make comparisons, but I will say this: he's the closest to Christian McCaffrey that I've seen in many, many years. I mean, the kid can catch, he can block, he can run. He does so many. I mean, I call him a five-tool kid. He's even got a little bit of home run speed. Would that be a fair comparison, a fair comparable?
Yeah, I mean, I always think it's interesting that people always want to compare somebody to another person instead of that person just being one of one. I think Travis Hunter this year gets caught up in that. And then we also do it every year with all the quarterbacks, right? And I understand why we do it. But to me, Cam Scadaboo is Cam Scadaboo. He's who he is. He can block. He can catch. He's another coach on the field. He's a great runner in between the tackles and outside of the tackles. He can, run the Wildcat offense. He can do a little bit of everything, I guarantee you. On a 3rd and 25-plus situation, you could also get him back there and punt it as a surprise punt on 3rd down.
Have you?
If you had to.
Yeah, when you were, you covered California quite a bit, Rudy. I mean, this kid was under the radar, imagine, goes to Sac State. Had you heard of this young man coming out of high school? Had you heard any hype whatsoever?
Nope, never heard of him. And like I said, I think part of that is because people are always trying to look to compare guys to somebody. And when Cam Scadaboo was coming out of high school, he was probably a very difficult guy to scout because people probably had a hard time comparing him to somebody when trying to sell him in that recruiting process. And at the end of the day, I'd be willing to bet that all you had to do was just turn on his tape. And if you turned on his tape, what you would see is a great football player. And in my opinion, that should be enough when recruiting a player or drafting a player. Just watching the tape, that's a great player. He can help us. Let's bring him here. But for whatever reason, it didn't work out for Cam like that. It didn't work out for a lot of guys like that. I think, Brock Purdy's another one of those guys who was overlooked for so long, but ultimately being overlooked was the best thing for him because then he went to a place like Iowa State where he got a chance to play right away and showcase his talent. And for Cam, I think ultimately it worked out great as well. He got to go to Sacramento State. They had some good seasons, made a deep playoff push, I believe, when he was there, which then ultimately led to him fulfilling a dream to play big Division I football. I understand Sac State is Division I, but I'm talking about Power 5 and now Power 4 football.
Rudy, real quick, with Cincinnati on the schedule for this week for the Devils, what would you say to this team so there's not a letdown? Because they have 2 back-to-back big wins.
Yeah, they do, and I don't necessarily think that they're going to have a letdown issue. I mean, they have a loss already in that category of L's, and I think the coaching staff is going to do a great job of making sure they don't have any type of emotional letdown, and I think they're going to be ready to play football. I think this team, and this is not a dig towards them, but I just don't think talent-wise they can afford to have any kind of, letdown at all. This is a team that needs to they need to play good football week in and week out. And, they need to limit penalties. They need to play, really, really good football. And then also, all the penalty stuff that they're just not good enough to overcome, not playing well, or to overcome penalties, or to overcome, giving away a lead early in the game. That's not where they're at. And so if they can keep playing how they're being coached to play, I think they're in good shape. I saw Kenny brought in Steve Nash to come talk to those guys, and he had a great message about learning how to win.
Carpenter's our guest on the Right Toyota guest line. Rudy, my final level question. You referenced at the beginning that you thought if this continues, Kenny Dillingham would be a candidate for Coach of the Year. In your estimation, we all thought when Kenny Dillingham got the job that he was the right guy at the right time. But did you think the turnaround would take place this quickly in year 2?
I've known Kenny for a long time, and, I talk a lot of crap on the radio. And so I think if I'm going to do that, I have to also be honest. I personally, as much as I like Kenny and think he's a great coach, I wasn't necessarily sold on the idea that he was necessarily ready for this job. And obviously I was wrong about that, and he proved a lot of people wrong. As far as getting it turned around, he is absolutely on the right path. I still think there's a lot more to do to really get this thing turned around. But up to this point, I think Kenny has done way more than anybody anticipated him doing. And I think he's done an incredible job. Again, in my viewpoint, this is all going to, I don't think this is going to come back on Kenny. This is all going to come back on that administration. What is that administration going to be able to do to make sure that Kenny Dillingham and that coaching staff has the resources that it needs in order to acquire the talent that it takes to win consistently at that level? And if that administration, if that booster club, and if the collective can get serious, I think Kenny can take this team as far as it can go. But if they don't, then, we're going to continue to talk about ASU being the monster that could have been.
Rudy, just have a couple minutes, but we do want to talk about the Cardinals. JG's never won back-to-back games. It seems like we're a roller coaster ride as Cardinal fans. Is there anything that kind of stood out for you yesterday as you watched some of this game? And seemed like it was just such an ugly, ugly game for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, and to me, I come on here a lot and talk about talent and, blah, 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 and that the Cardinals don't necessarily have it from top to bottom on their roster. I obviously believe all of that to be true, but again, I think for me, the main thing is just, who is this team? Who is, what is this team? Who are they? What is their identity? And to me, I don't think that this team, or really even this organization, knows that right now, or could even answer that question, or could really put their thumb on who they are and what their identity is and who they're trying to be and how they're going to win games. And so to me, until they get that figured out, we're going to kind of be in the same place of, we just can't win back-to-back games.
Rudy, thanks for some time. I know we're short on it, but appreciate it. I mean, I think the Devils deserve all the time today. So Cincinnati is their next opponent, who are pretty good.
They're
good. 4-2.
Yep.
And they lost by Pittsburgh by 1 and Texas Tech by 3. So they played everybody tough. So hopefully we can continue talking about the Devils next week, Rudy. So thanks for the time today.
Go Devils.
You got it. We got to go Devils for Rudy. There you go. We'll continue on. We're at the Trophy Bar.